Well, a series of scandals finally drove progressive Graham Platner yesterday to withdraw as the Democrat nominee in the Maine Senate race. Now, the party is scrambling. 6 people have already declared their candidacies to replace Platner on the ballot. The Maine Democratic Party says it will hold a nominating convention in 2 weeks.
The convention will be fair, representative, and as transparent as possible, as we all come together in service of our ultimate goal, defeating Susan Collins and winning this Senate seat.
Let's bring in David Carlucci, Democratic strategist and a former New York State senator. David, what do you think about this convention they're going to be holding in Maine? Is that the right way to go about picking the candidate?
Well, look, one of the things that I've learned working on many campaigns is that people don't want to just vote for a campaign. They want to belong to the campaign. They want to feel a part of the team. And if they feel that, they're going to run through a wall for you. So that's the principle that the Democratic leadership in Maine needs to embrace, that people want to have a seat at the table. Democrats want a seat at the table. They don't want just a ticket to the ceremony. And so that is the hard thing in 2 weeks that leadership in Maine has to accomplish. They have to make people really feel a part of something, part of the Democratic team, whether you're a liberal, you're a moderate, somewhere in between. Everyone needs to feel a part of this.
I guess there are a number of Democrats who are wishing that, it hadn't reached this point, that Platner hadn't become the nominee. Jamie Metzel is a former Bill Clinton White House fellow who says there should have been a much more rigorous discussion in this particular candidacy. Listen.
About women when he was making the whole campaign about this extraneous stuff and class warfare. We, the Democrats, should have said, this is not us. But if we see these people, including the DSA, who are trying to take control of our party and our brand with bigotry and anti-patriotism and anti-Americanism, and we don't condemn that unequivocally, then that becomes us. And that really can't be the case in my view.
Do you think the party did not do enough to sort of vet this guy and maybe get him out of the race before it all came crashing down?
No, look, I mean, you can play Monday morning quarterback all day long, and what can you do, right? We have to take people for their word. Of course, we need to verify wherever possible. But look, this is the process. There was a primary. That shouldn't be forgotten. And even with this baggage, we saw some of this baggage, not all of it, but even with some of the baggage, he was still polling better than the sitting senator, Senator Collins. So I think that tells you something. I think it tells you about the political climate that we're in, that people are really upset. They're frustrated, whether it's the left or the right. This is not unique to the Democratic Party, but this is about anti-establishment. And I'm warning my friends and colleagues that if you're an incumbent, you need to be on your A game. You need to be running scared this year because people are angry. And that's why you're seeing these populist candidates really doing well.
Doug Schoen is, of course, a Democrat pollster who helped Bill Clinton get elected. He wrote this on FoxNews.com. He says, "What must Democrats do? Plainly, they need to avoid repeating the coronation process used by former President Joe Biden and former Vice President Kamala Harris." He goes on to write, quite simply, Maine Democrats must use the next 2 weeks to start a robust process that ideally goes deeper than their 600-delegate nominating convention. Is it too little, too late to get a new candidate, or are Democrats still going to be in good shape there?
Oh, look, the opportunity now for Maine is that we're not talking about Platner's past. We're talking about Maine's future. So this is a huge opportunity for Democrats. Look, I think Platner was doing very well. Of course, these serious accusations, credible accusations, are just too far for us to accept. But now we have an opportunity. Any of those people that you talked about, they're going to be vetted now by this very quick process. And it's going to be up to the Maine voters to decide. But I think the wind is at the back of the Democrats, talking less about their personal issues and more about the issues that are affecting Maine families and what they're talking about at the kitchen table. And I think this idea that we can come in and vet these candidates, that is what the voters do. And that's why this 2-week process, it's not going to be easy. But it's going to be so important that people feel they have that seat at the table and not just a ticket to the ceremony.
Well, very quickly, you say voters do that, but Graham Platner had all kinds of baggage, and veterans, and voters were still suggesting that he was their guy.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the climate that we're in. And there's a fine line in this authenticity. I think what was exciting about that candidate is that he was flawed, that he wasn't this cookie cutter politician out of Hollywood. He was a guy with all the warts and scars of what most Americans face, the troubles, the problems that we face. And the fact that he was a veteran and struggling with some of those issues is what many of us can relate to. So, I mean, we can look at the sitting president right now. He's had numerous accusations, even some held up by a court of law, and voters are still supporting him. Well, so I think it's very important that people feel a part of the campaign. They feel that sense of credibility, that no matter what those flaws are, that person is going to fight for them. And that's what voters are really looking for.
I think it's safe to say that most Americans aren't brandishing Nazi tattoos. Anyway, he's out of the race.
Well,
David Carlucci. David, thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.